It was the most controversial case in American history. A vicious double homicide, a scene like something from a slasher movie, and at the heart of it all, a beloved celebrity was the murder suspect. O.J. Simpson, star NFL player, actor, socialite, author, and now one of the most hated men in America. But did he do it? Did he murder his ex-wife in a wave of jealousy, or was he framed by corrupt cops? But before we can talk about him, we need to know exactly what went down on the night of June 12th, 1994. Today, we'll be discussing the savage slaughter of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Before we get into the case, I just want to thank our sponsor for making this video possible, June's Journey. If you're an OG EleanorNeale viewer, you will know, first of all, how much of a mobile game girly I am, and second of all, how much I love June's Journey. It's a hidden object murder mystery mobile game app where you play as a woman named June Parker who is trying to solve the murder of her own sister. Alongside the murder mystery storyline, there's also a house renovation aspect to the game, which I love. I love those games where you can like renovate and decorate and customize and like you get to build this like house in your own little grounds. It's so fun. It's totally free to download and it's been my comfort game for literally years at this point. You've heard me talking about it for years. I always play it like when I'm tucked up in bed at night and I'm all cozy and I want to kind of like wind down. I play it in the bath. I play it in waiting rooms a lot. If you see me in a doctor's waiting room, I have June's Journey open on my phone for real. For me, it's perfect because I love like spooky mystery, like murder mystery storylines, but I don't like to be scared. I don't like scary horror games, and this isn't that. It's very chill. Like I say, it's my comfort game for a reason. It's also just really pretty. Like all of the scenes, because it's a hidden object game, so there's different scenes for you to pick them out in, and they're all so pretty. There's so much attention to detail. And right now, June's Journey are celebrating their 6th anniversary. It's their 6th birthday. Celebrations in-game start on September 25th, but on September 30th, they're doing this really cool thing on their YouTube channel. It's gonna be like a live action murder mystery web series with real people acting out this murder mystery, and you get to watch along from home and try to figure out who you think is responsible for the crime. I'm absolutely heartbroken that I couldn't be there to take part in this because it looks like it's going to be so much fun. There's going to be Easter eggs sprinkled throughout the series and tons of chances to win in-game prizes. All you have to do is watch along with the web series. It's going to be on June's Journey's YouTube channel and you just have to try and figure out who the criminal is. And if you vote correctly, you'll win a prize in-game. So head over to their YouTube channel, make sure you're watching along, and while you're at it, make sure you've got the game downloaded. You can click the link in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on screen right now. It is completely free to download, available on iOS, Android, and even on PC on Facebook Games. Thanks again to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. I'm super excited to watch the web series, and I hope you guys are too. I want to hear all your theories as it's going on. My Instagram DMs are open, and I want to hear it. One last thing before we get started, I just want to give my usual disclaimer that I mean absolutely no disrespect to anyone that I talk about in this video. This video is for educational purposes, and everything that I'm about to say is publicly available information that myself and my team have found online and compiled into one video. This video will cover especially sensitive topics, including but not limited to domestic abuse, including domestic violence, racism and racial abuse, suicide threats, suicidal ideation, police brutality, and misogyny. If you feel like any of those topics might be triggering or too intense for you, then I would recommend that you click out of this video now. Hopefully, I'll get to see you some other time with a different video, but until then, look after yourself. And while we make every effort to fact check our sources and to make sure that all of our information is correct, no action should be taken in reliance upon the information in this video. And I want to take this opportunity to remind you that these are real people's lives that we're talking about, so please do keep the comment section kind and respectful. All opinions in this video are mine and mine alone, and with that being said, let's get into the case. Now this one is actually going to be split into 2 parts across 2 different videos, and we haven't done this in so long, but this case is so big and I also feel like it has a natural split in the middle. So today we'll discuss the actual murder case, the police investigation, and everything relating to the crime itself, and then in part 2, in the next video, we will cover the mammoth that was the O.J. Simpson murder trial. The information on this case seems infinite, so there's no way in hell I would be able to go into absolutely every single little detail. So if I have left anything out that you think is important, please do drop it down below in the comments. That's always welcome in my videos. So today's case takes place in the west side of LA in 1994. So another Hollywood case. I feel like we've been covering a lot of these lately, but it interests me so much to know that shit like this goes on no matter who you are, no matter how famous you are, even in celebrity circles. People are getting murdered. Orenthal James Simpson, known as OJ, was 47 years old at the time of this case, and in his earlier career, he was one of the best, most successful, most famous NFL players in history. He's broken tons of records. He was given the MVP, which is the most valuable player. He was one hell of a big deal as a sportsman, and he made multi-millions doing it. I'm sure we'll dig further into his career a little bit later on in the case, but for now, that's kind of all you really need to know, was that he was a very successful, adored sportsman with a lot of money, power, and connections. In 1977, he purchased this huge house in the Brentwood area of LA, and it was gorgeous. It had an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a tennis court. It even had a 6-foot wall built all around the perimeter of the property, obviously for privacy reasons. A lot of celebrities have to get very, sheltered houses. OJ lived there with his family at the time. He had a wife named Marguerite. They had 3 children together. But very soon after moving into this house, this dream family home, OJ got a wandering eye. After visiting a local nightclub called the Daisy, he spotted an absolutely stunning waitress named Nicole Brown. She was just freshly 18 years old at the time that he spotted her, and he was 30. He forgot all about his wife and kids at home as soon as he saw Nicole, and he walked up to her and started flirting with her. And Nicole was very quickly and easily charmed by OJ. I mean, he was one of the most famous, richest sportsmen in the whole country at that time. I bet a lot of 18-year-olds would be. So she accepted his advances, and the 2 of them started seeing each other. They started a secret affair, which went on for a couple of years until eventually OJ divorced his wife to be with Nicole. Once he was legally cleared of that marriage, he proposed to Nicole, moved her into his big massive house. He still had the house. It was Marguerite and the kids that had to move out. So he's moved in his new girl already. The 2 of them got married in 1985. They went on to have 2 children together, a daughter named Sydney and a son named Justin. But Nicole and OJ's marriage wasn't destined to last forever. In 1992, it was OJ that filed for divorce from Nicole, actually, citing irreconcilable differences. Although she had been reporting him to the police throughout their whole marriage for domestic violence, for domestic abuse. So things were never good. But yeah, like I say, it was eventually OJ that was the one to put an end to the marriage. Despite police coming out to their house on at least 8 different occasions to respond to these domestic violence claims, OJ was never charged with anything. He was never convicted of any kind of domestic abuse. Nicole would call the police. She would be in a state as well. I've listened to a lot of these calls through my research, and she's crying, she's sobbing, she's begging with them to help her. But then when the police would come out to take details from her, she would end up dropping the charges against him, and the 2 of them would be all lovey-dovey again a couple of days later. Nicole mentioned to people at the time that she would always drop these charges, not because he wasn't abusing her, she said that he was, but because she didn't want to cause problems. She didn't want to cause trouble. He was very much in control of her finances. She lived in his house. They had 2 children together, and she felt like he could take all of that away from her if she upset him. In my opinion, I feel like this was all quite calculated on OJ's part. So their marriage had a prenup, so of course she wouldn't take any of his money if they were to split. And actually, there was a condition of their marriage that prohibited Nicole to work, to get her own job and to earn her own money. So he was, in my opinion, intentionally keeping her in that position Maybe for this reason, so that she wouldn't run away from him, so that she wouldn't call the police on him, different things like that. And it seemed to work because she never did anything about it because she was scared of losing everything. But eventually he divorces her first and he makes her move out of their giant Brentwood home and he made her take the 2 kids with her. So she gets a smaller house, although it's still a decent sized house because the child support payments that OJ was ordered to pay were $10,000 a month for their 2 children and of course, you know, housing, upkeep, all that kind of stuff. So she's still got a pretty damn big house. I mean, it's not the one with the Olympic swimming pool and a tennis court, but it's still a decent sized house. It has a guest house and everything. And actually, along the way, Nicole gets a roommate, but not really a roommate because he didn't live in her house with her. He lived in her guest house. His name was Kato Kaelin. He was like a small actor. He never really had any big roles. His career never really took off. Well, prior to this case, because he really got involved in this case. So that's how a lot of people know his name, is not because of his acting, is because of this. But like I say, he was a small actor and he was trying to make it work, and so he kind of needed to live in LA, in Hollywood, but he didn't really have the finances to be able to live there. So this was kind of a perfect situation for both of them. He would pay her $500 a month to live in her guest house. It was a good location. To be fair, sometimes he would even pay less than $500 if he also agreed to look after the kids every now and again. If he babysat, then she'd let him pay less. It was mutually beneficial. So that was their situation. Not much to really note just yet. That was until Nicole decided to move houses. She was going to move to a slightly smaller house. And keep in mind, whenever I say she's moving to a smaller house, it's still a decent sized house. All of them were. And when she was thinking about moving, she was planning on keeping Kato with her. You know, they'd become friends now. He was just like, I don't know, she wanted to be able to house him and have him pay rent every month. That was a good little chunk of income for her. And also, he helped look after the kids. So when she was moving to this next place, she was going to keep him with her. But like I said, the next house was slightly smaller than the last. It still did have a spare bedroom, like a spare suite. But it wasn't a guest house. So yeah, now he would be like a proper roommate. He would be living in the same living quarters as Nicole and her children. But when OJ found out about this, he was not happy. Jealousy crept in and he just did not like the fact that his ex-wife and his children were going to be living with another man. He simply didn't like that. So much so that he actually offered to house Kato himself. Because OJ had, I think, at least 2 guest houses on his property, and one of them was empty. One of them his son lived in, I believe, but the other one was empty. And so he was like, instead of you living with my ex-wife, just come and live with me. I find it crazy right off the bat that, like, he doesn't want her. He divorced her, got her to move out, but he also doesn't even want other men to have the chance of having her. It's not even just, if I can't have her, no one can. It's like, I don't want her, and I don't want her to be able to move on. And we don't even know if her and Kato even had anything. I mean, there's no reports of that. There's no suspicions of that. I don't know whether it was purely just OJ's jealousy of the fact that a man was going to be living with her. I don't know. So anyway, now Nicole lives on her own with her 2 kids, and Kato has moved into OJ's guest house, and they become friends in this time. Of course, why not? Like, you're living together, might as well. Which brings us to June 1994. 2.5 years after their divorce, Nicole Brown Simpson would be brutally murdered outside her own home. That evening, she'd been to her daughter's dance recital. Her parents came as well, and they'd actually met up with OJ there. Of course, he was the daughter's father, so he wanted to come along as well, and apparently everything was fine. You know, they could meet up civilly to enjoy their daughter's dance recital. Everything was fine. After the performance, Nicole and her family, her parents and her kids, were all going to go out for dinner, and OJ wasn't invited. But, like, I mean, he was her ex-husband at the end of the day. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't expect to be invited if I was him. So anyway, Nicole and her family go out to dinner, and then after the restaurant, they go to Ben & Jerry's, get an ice cream, and at some point during all of this, Nicole's mum realizes that she left her glasses at the restaurant. So they called up, and luckily the restaurant had spotted them and saved them, popped them into a little white envelope, actually, so that they could hopefully return them at some point. And one of the waiters at this restaurant was like acquaintances with Nicole. They kind of knew each other, and so he offered to go and drop them off at her house at the end of his shift. So at the end of the night, after Ben and Jerry's, Nicole and the kids go home, she puts them to bed, and then she sets up like a chill, nice night for herself. She runs the bath in her ensuite, she lights a bunch of candles, and that's it. That was her evening. From about 10 p.m. onwards, Nicole's neighbours heard a dog barking. Barking and barking and barking. It just wasn't stopping. It sounded quite distressed. And a little bit later on, there was a couple walking home down Nicole's street, and they spotted a white Akita just pacing around, running around, barking. It seemed distressed. It looked like it had probably gotten away from its owner somehow or escaped. It looked like it didn't really know where to go or what to do, and some sources even said that it had blood on its paws or like up its legs. So the couple see this dog and they panic a little bit, you know, you would, wouldn't you? And so they go over to it, they try to calm it down, and they think, okay, let's take it back home, give it some food, try and calm it down, and then we'll try and find its owner. But no matter what they did, they just could not calm this dog down. Even back in their house, it wouldn't eat. It was like scratching at their doors. It clearly wanted to get out. So the couple were like, okay, this isn't working. Let's take it for a walk. Maybe walk it down where they found it, just in case it's trying to get home. So they walked it out in that general area, and as they were getting closer, the dog started like pulling, like dragging them to where it clearly wanted to go. It ran across to the other side of the street and just started barking again, and when the couple followed it over, they realised that this pup had been trying to alert them to a gruesome murder scene. There laid a blonde woman, collapsed into a heap at the bottom of her stairs, and surrounding her was a pool of blood twice as big as she was. She was clearly already dead. There was no movement whatsoever, and with that amount of blood loss, it was practically impossible that she could have been alive. The couple knew that they had to report this to the police immediately, but back then in the 90s, most people didn't just have a mobile phone on them, so they knew they needed to find a landline. So they ran to a nearby house and knocked on the door to see if they could borrow their phone, but this didn't actually go to plan. This is a really interesting little pocket of this case. The door that they went and knocked on, of course they didn't know who was inside, but it turned out it was an elderly woman. She was in her 80s, she was home alone, it was like midnight, and all of a sudden she hears someone frantically banging on her door. She thought it was an intruder. She thought someone was trying to break in. So she didn't go and open it. She didn't let them in. In fact, she called the police and she said, I think someone's trying to break in my house. Of course, by this point, the couple realised that no one was going to open the door to them, so they went round to the next house, who did let them in, and by this point, they'd used the phone to report the murder. Police arrived at the scene very, very quickly. As soon as they did, they started taping up the crime scene and trying to figure out what had happened to this poor woman. As all of this was happening, another one of the detectives got out his flashlight, because it was dark at this point, and he starts scanning the garden to see if he can find any like immediate pieces of evidence. And then, as his flashlight grazed the far end of the garden, right to the corner, it illuminated another dead body. This time it was a young man. He had his shirt pulled over his head for some reason and was found slumped kind of against the fence between this garden and the next. The first body was identified as 35-year-old Nicole Brown Simpson, and the man found dead at the end of her garden was 25-year-old Ron Goldman. Both of them had been savagely stabbed and slashed to death. So many times, there were so many wounds, mainly in their neck. It was clear that their killer was trying to kill them quickly. In the struggle, the victims had also suffered stab wounds to their scalp, to their shoulders, to their back. Nicole actually had one of the worst injuries. She had a slash all the way across her neck that almost decapitated her, and it had severed her voice box into two. She was laying face down at the bottom of her stairs in front of her front door, and she was fully clothed but barefoot. And now this little difference in how her body was found actually told the police a lot about the crime and what went down. Because the blood pooling around Nicole was so vast, she had bled so much, yet her bare feet were completely clean and dry, which told them that she hadn't been running through her own blood trying to get away from her killer. She must have died pretty quickly. So it's safe to assume that she was killed first and then Ron Goldman. Ron suffered very, very similar injuries to Nicole, stab and slash wounds to his neck, to his head, but the one main difference between the two of them was that Nicole had that huge slash to her neck, almost as if her killer was trying to decapitate her. And there was certain blood evidence on Nicole's body that showed that her killer had gone back to her again after killing Ron. So we believe they killed Nicole, then killed Ron, and then went back over to her and put their foot on her back. There was a bloody footprint found on her back. Her killer grabbed her from behind by her hair, pulled her head up, and then did that terrible slash wound to her neck. So from all of that kind of evidence alone, it appears as though Nicole was the main target of this attack. They had gone straight to her, attacked her, and then gone and killed Ron, and then made sure that Nicole was dead before they left the scene. There were less self-defense wounds on Nicole's hands and arms than were on Ron's, so it's believed that she probably died quicker. There was less of a struggle there. Once the bodies were transported to the morgue for autopsy, the crime scene was secured and evidence was taken. Major clues, like physical clues that they found at the scene, included a hat, one extra large leather glove, and a white envelope containing glasses. There was also a trail of bloody footprints that led down a path in Nicole's garden and into a back alley where they suddenly stopped. It seemed that this was the killer leaving the crime scene, and the fact that they suddenly stopped in this back alley suggests that maybe they hopped into a vehicle. And next to this trail of bloody footprints, there was also a trail of just singular blood drops along the left side of them. Now, police concluded that this was possibly the killer themselves bleeding as they left the scene. Maybe they'd sustained an injury to themselves, probably their left hand, if the drops are running along the left side of the shoes, they were injured on their left side somewhere. The direction of these footprints and the fact that they go into this back alley was also very interesting because it wasn't obvious that this back alley existed from the front of Nicole's house. Kind of like a if you know thing. So maybe it was someone that knew Nicole and knew her house well enough to know that there was a back alley there that they could sneak out of. Other things to note about the crime scene, the front door was completely wide open when police arrived, although it's not believed that anyone broke in or let themselves in. There wasn't a drop of blood inside the house whatsoever, so it's believed that maybe Nicole came to the door that day and then was either pulled out or lured out, where she was then killed at the bottom of her steps. And that makes sense considering, we think she was the main target of this attack. She had the worst injuries, she was the first one killed, and it just makes sense that maybe she was lured out of her house or coaxed out of her house. It's believed that Ron Goldman was killed because maybe he stumbled across Nicole being murdered. Maybe he arrived at the scene whilst this was all going on, and so Nicole's killer saw him as a witness that they needed to get rid of. Ron Goldman was actually the waiter from that restaurant that Nicole and her family had been to earlier on in the day. This was her acquaintance waiter friend who offered to drop off the glasses at the end of his shift. So maybe it was just timing. Maybe someone was going to murder Nicole Brown that night, whether he was there or not, but maybe he just stumbled upon it happening, and so the killer got rid of him too. Ron Goldman is believed to be just like an innocent bystander throughout this whole case, and a lot of the time his name is kind of forgotten about. Everyone talks about O.J. Simpson and his wife Nicole and da-da-da-da, to the point where I think a lot of people forget that 2 people were killed that night. Inside Nicole's house, detectives start looking around, and that was when they found pictures of Nicole's children with O.J. Simpson in them. And there was a letter on her coffee table with the return address of O.J. Simpson and his house. And police very quickly connected the dots that their victim was O.J. Simpson's ex-wife. Those kids that were asleep upstairs as their mum was murdered, they were O.J.'s kids. So they tried to get in contact with him. They needed to inform him that his ex-wife, the mother of his children, was dead. And they also needed him to come and pick up his kids from the police station. Of course, they'd woken up to the most traumatic thing that they possibly could have. They needed their dad. But when police tried to call him, they couldn't get hold of him. So they went down to his address and they buzzed on the intercom a few times, but again, no response. So as they were waiting, hopefully waiting for someone to answer the intercom, one of the officers starts having a bit of a look around the outside of his house. And that was when he noticed that OJ's car was parked really weirdly. It seemed very hastily parked, like it wasn't straight, there'd been no effort or thought into how the car was left. It looked like it had been parked in a rush. So officers went over to it and they were having a little look, peering inside and stuff. And that was when one officer noticed a smear of blood on the driver's side door. Now this made everything 10 times worse, 10 times more scary, because maybe someone was injured or worse, even dead at this location as well. There were connections here. This was Nicole's ex-husband, so maybe whoever killed her might have wanted to kill him too. Maybe that was why no one was answering on the intercom. Maybe they were too late. Police panicked, and so they decided to just scale the wall and try to go and have a look in OJ's house. No one was answering the intercom. They weren't going to get let in, so they felt like they needed to check. They didn't have a search warrant, of course. This was all happening so quickly and it was so urgent to them that they felt like they needed to just go in and check anyway, make sure that everyone was okay. So police get inside the house and the first person they come across is OJ's housemate. Remember Kato Kaelin, the one that used to live with Nicole, now lives with OJ. And he told them that, OJ is not home right now. He actually caught a flight to Chicago the night before. So that's why he wasn't answering his phone, he wasn't answering the intercom, he was on a flight. Police knew that they couldn't really do anything until he landed and until he got settled at his hotel. They managed to figure out which hotel he would be staying at, so they'd be able to call up the hotel once he got there to be able to talk to him. But in the meantime, they decided to briefly interview Kato Kaelin, since they had him there. They asked him if he'd seen or heard anything weird that night, and he had. Around 10:45 p.m, which was about 45 minutes after they believe the murder happened. They've pinpointed it to be about 10 p.m, maybe a little bit after 10 p.m. But Kato was home at 10:45 when he heard 3 loud thumps coming from outside his window. He couldn't figure out what the noise was at the time, but he also just didn't think too much into it. But now he told the police about this and they wanted to look into it further. So he told police where he thought this noise was coming from and they walked around the outside of the house to have a look. And there, laying on the ground, was an extra large leather glove, almost identical to the one that had been found at the murder scene. And when I say almost identical, I feel like the only thing that was different about these gloves was that one was the left hand and one was the right hand. The left hand had been found at the murder scene covered in blood, and now the right hand glove was found outside O.J. Simpson's house. Of course, police couldn't say for sure whether they were 2 gloves from the same set at this point in time, but it didn't look good, did it? This is serious shit. They knew they needed to get hold of O.J. ASAP. It was about 6 a.m. when police called up his hotel in Chicago and they patched the call through to his room, where police broke the news to him that his ex-wife Nicole had been found dead. And his response was frantic. He was almost talking to himself, repeating, "Oh my God, Nicole is killed. Oh my God, she's dead." He told the police that he would be on the next plane possible out of Chicago and back to LA so that he could come and collect his kids. And then the call ended. But one thing worth pointing out about this call is that OJ never once asked how Nicole had died. He didn't have any questions on the entire thing, just is she actually dead? He didn't know if it was an accident, like a tragic car crash, whether it was murder, whether it was suicide. It's almost as if he already knew what it was. By this point, police had kind of come up with their own theory, and O.J. Simpson was looking pretty suspect right now. They theorized that O.J. might have dropped the first glove in a struggle at Nicole's house and then left the crime scene, walked to his car that he may have parked in that back alley. He got a spot of blood on the car door on the way back to his house and then, drove there, hurriedly parked his car in a rush, and then ran back to the house to hide his bloody clothes, the weapons, and maybe on his way in, he dropped some stuff or, bumped into something. Maybe that's what the thumps were. and maybe that glove was, the second glove, was dropped in the process. Even though it was very early days, police knew that this theory was promising. I mean, of course it is. So a team of officers was sent to search both OJ's home and Nicole's home. By now, morning had fully broke. The sun was coming up, and that was when police noticed a trail of blood drops leading towards OJ Simpson's front door. Which is interesting because remember there was a trail of blood drops alongside the killer's footprints as they left the crime scene. So if OJ was the killer, could he have still been bleeding as he got out of his car and walked into his own home that night? There were even a few drops inside the foyer of the house. Like, as you go into the front door, there's still this trail happening. So whoever was bleeding had come inside OJ's house. Now that they had the search warrant, they could do further searches of his car, and what do you know? More blood. There were little smears absolutely everywhere, on the steering wheel, on the chair, on the console in the middle. Someone had definitely been bleeding in there. OJ's flight back from Chicago to LA was due to get in at about 12 midday, and he'd actually called up ahead of time and arranged for a criminal defense attorney to meet him upon his return to the state. Interesting. Because bear in mind, at this point, he doesn't know how Nicole died. He didn't ask. He doesn't know if it is a crime. Could have just been an accident or, you know, a suicide or something. But he has a feeling that he's going to be questioned, I guess. When he arrived back from the airport, he was very confused as to why police had a search warrant and why they were already piling into his home and scouring the whole thing. And they had to tell him, well, it's because we found a trail of blood leading into your house. And at this point, he starts hyperventilating and just like repeating to himself, oh man, oh man, oh man. Maybe he was right to get that criminal defense attorney, I guess, but how did he know he needed one? So, LAPD protocol for a case like this that has like celebrity involvement is to try to give the paparazzi nothing. You know, try to make as little of a scene as possible. Don't do anything in public. Don't give them anything to take photos of and to take to the media before things are wrapped up, you know, on the police's side of things. So throughout this whole case and this whole investigation, OJ was hidden as much as they possibly could because paparazzi were everywhere. They were all outside his house, outside Nicole's house. They were waiting for him to get back from the airport, everything. So at this point, he's back at the house and there's paparazzi lining the whole outside of his property. And police want to take him down to the station. And usual protocol in a situation like this would be to handcuff the suspect because you found blood in his house and everything. So they did. They handcuffed his hands behind his back and they started to lead him out to the police car. And then they realized, shit, paparazzi's gonna see this, they're gonna take photos of it, and then as soon as a photo of OJ Simpson with his hands cuffed behind his back gets in the news, game over. So they agreed to take off the handcuffs as long as OJ, you know, cooperated and went compliantly into the police car, and so he did. But it was already too late because they had handcuffed him for about 2 minutes, and in that time, a paparazzi got a photo. And this picture circulated quicker than you could imagine, but the public didn't even know the half of it yet. When they got him back to the station, police noticed that OJ had a band-aid on one of his fingers, on his left hand, the same hand that they theorized that the killer would have injured. They didn't mention anything to him about this just yet. They just kind of mentally noted it because it was very interesting. So they sat him down and they just started asking him about Nicole and about their relationship, how it was versus how it is now. And he said, you know, even though they'd been divorced for 2 years, over 2 years, they could still get on. They could still be civil when they had to, you know, when it came to their kids and stuff. He was telling them about how he'd seen her the night that she died. He said, we were leaving a dance recital. She took off and I was talking to her parents. It ended at about 6:30, 6:45, something like that, you know, in the ballpark, right in that area. Her mother said something about me joining them for dinner, and I said no thanks. He said that he went back home after that interaction, after his daughter's dance recital, so police asked what time he arrived home, and also if he'd done anything else before he left for the airport. OJ said that he got back at 7 something. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did I leave? You know, I always I had to run and get my daughter some flowers. I was actually doing the recital, so I rushed and got her some flowers, and I came home. And then I called Paula, which is his current girlfriend, as I was going to her house, and Paula wasn't home. I mean, whatever time it took me to get to the recital and back, to get to the flower shop and back, that's the time I was out of the house. So that is just totally incomprehensible. I mean, even I had trouble trying to read that out because he said a whole lot of words, but also nothing at the same time. Did he buy the flowers before or after his daughter's recital? Did he go and drop the flowers off? Did he ever end up seeing his girlfriend Paula? So many questions. How did you just say so many words, yet you said nothing at all? Whether it was on purpose or not, he gave the officers absolutely no way of being able to check his alibi and determine the truth. They asked at what time did he park his car for the final time before going into his house and getting ready for his flight, and he said 8 something, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, I don't know, right in that area. Right in what area? Literally what area? That is a whole 3-hour window that you've given them. Yeah, around like 7, 8, 9 o'clock area. I don't think they tried to push for anything more out of him. I think it speaks volumes in itself that he won't give a specific time. So then, police asked him how he had injured his finger on his left hand, and he claimed that he'd broken some glass and then, cut his finger on it. But then later, he says he wasn't too sure how he injured his hand, actually, which is just insane to me. Like, cutting your finger on glass is quite like a shocking and scary injury to do. You don't know if you've got glass stuck in the wound. I hate, cutting something on glass. It freaks me out. It's not something that you forget so easily within 24 hours, where you're like, oh, I might have cut it on glass. It might have been something else. I can't remember how I did it. Police already told him that they found blood inside and outside his car. So they asked him if he remembered bleeding in his car, to which he replied, yeah, I mean, I knew I was bleeding, but it was no big deal. I bleed all the time. I play golf and stuff, so there's always something, nicks and stuff here and there. The detectives never actually circled back to his finger injury, even though OJ never even answered the most basic question of, how did you do it? They just never pried again, I guess. This first interview that they had with OJ, it was only supposed to be a brief interview just to get any initial information that then they could dig deeper into and work off of. This was supposed to be the first of many interviews, but it was the only one they ever did. And it lasted 32 minutes. Within a couple of days of the murder taking place, O.J. Simpson had already assembled his dream team of lawyers. Now, this team has become infamous in the true crime world ever since this case. The team was initially led by Robert or Bob Shapiro, who is a great lawyer. He is known for doing the Menendez brothers case. And the dream team also featured the one and only Robert Kardashian, of course, father to Kim, Khloe, and Kourtney. Well, and Rob, but, whatever. Rob Kardashian, the dad, Rob. This is why I wasn't going to mention Rob, because now it gets confusing. The dad, Rob, he was actually pretty good friends with O.J. Simpson before this case. Both him and his wife, Kris Jenner, she's now Kris Jenner, but she was obviously Kardashian at the time, I guess. They were actually pretty close with OJ and Nicole, especially when they were married. They would hang out as couple friends. But even after the divorce and everything, Rob and OJ had stayed pretty good friends. And Rob was always a very good attorney in the LA area. So it was no question that he was going to get his friend Rob on his case. So the Avengers had assembled. The dream team was together. In private, Bob Shapiro gave O.J. Simpson a polygraph test, a lie detector test, just to make sure that he was being honest with his account of that night, because he was keeping his story straight to everyone, to the police, to his family, to his lawyers. He was telling this same story. But in order for Shapiro to be able to defend him properly, he needed to know if he was genuinely working with the 100% truth or not. So he gave OJ this lie detector test, which we all know aren't accurate. We know this, especially in 2023. Polygraph tests are a load of balls. They're not accurate whatsoever, but I will say the results of this one were kind of crazy. So on a polygraph test, anything below a -6 indicates deceitfulness. OJ was scoring -24, which is practically the max that you can get on a lie. But like I say, polygraph tests are inaccurate. I'll be the first to say that. But that's also very interesting, huh? Then, on the morning of June 17th, less than 5 whole days since the murder took place, police got a warrant out for O.J. Simpson's arrest. He was to be charged with first-degree double homicide. The warrant was first sent to O.J.'s lawyer, Bob Shapiro, which, luckily for O.J. and his team, he was a celebrity, and in celebrity cases like this, they have special privileges. He was awarded the right to give himself up to the police rather than be arrested, because if he was arrested, then it would make the news, there'd be pictures about it and stuff. So in cases like this, where it's a famous suspect, they always call up and they say, okay, we're gonna arrest you, but we're gonna let you come to us to avoid the media show. So police call up Shapiro and they let him know about the warrant for OJ's arrest, and they said that due to the severity of the charges, OJ would have to be kept in police custody right up until his trial. He wouldn't be allowed out on bail or anything, and actually, given the severity of his charges, once again, if he was found guilty, he could be given the death penalty. Of course, this case was still very hush-hush at this point in time, but people that did know about it could not believe that the O.J. Simpson, sports hero, could have been executed for a crime. But when Shapiro received this call about the arrest warrant, he took it as more of a request rather than a command. As if he had a choice in the matter. He tried to tell them that OJ was in a very bad place mentally at this point in time. He was depressed, he'd been put on antidepressants, and he had people around him 24/7 for emotional support. So police said to Shapiro, they were like, okay, we can give him mental health support when he's in custody, but bottom line is, you need to get him in. They actually gave them a deadline of 11 a.m. that day. They wanted O.J. Simpson in their custody. So Shapiro ended the call by saying that he would do his best to get O.J. in on time. At this point, O.J. was actually already at Rob Kardashian's house. I think he'd actually been living there since this case happened, because obviously his own house is a crime scene. He can't stay there. So I think he'd been living with Rob Kardashian. So Shapiro makes his way to the Kardashian house, along with all the other members of the Dream Team, to spend their final 2 hours of privacy with O.J., asking any last-minute questions, doing any little tests, Because remember, he would have to be kept in police custody from being arrested all the way up until his trial. So every conversation that they would have with him from that point on would be recorded. It would be, it wouldn't be 100% private. The only time that they could have private conversations was right now in one of his besties' houses. And these, last-minute private conversations actually ended up running over the deadline of 11 a.m. Are we surprised? I'm not, but also, how cheeky is that? When you've already been awarded the privilege of self-surrender, but they're still pushing it. So at this point, the LAPD keep calling up Shapiro and they're like, where are you? Where is OJ? You're not keeping your end of the deal. And he's saying, well, these things take time. I'll get him in as soon as I can. They pushed it and pushed it and pushed it eventually until their right to self-surrender was revoked. And so the LAPD sent a cop car down to the Kardashian house to finally arrest OJ Simpson. When they arrived, Shapiro went and met them outside and he pleaded, begged them for just a little bit more time, because he said that OJ didn't even know there was a warrant out for his arrest right now. He said that they hadn't told him yet. We don't know how true this is, but, Shapiro was saying, look, we've just been talking to him. No one's actually let him know that you guys are here, that you were on your way. And he was like, please let us break it to him in a gentle way, because, like we say, he was very fragile at this point in time, very depressed, and there was a psychiatrist in there. There was a psychiatrist on the Dream Team of lawyers, and they were like, please let him break the news so that it'll be, easier for OJ to handle. And you know what? Police said, okay, sure. Police agreed to just hover there outside in the street and wait to arrest him while one of his mates broke the news to him inside. So inside the house, the psychiatrist goes to where OJ's bedroom situation was, but when he opens the door, OJ was gone. You can't write this shit, can you? It actually sounds like a cartoon. What do you mean the alleged killer escaped through a window while the police were waiting outside to arrest him? That doesn't happen in real life. And not gonna lie, it all feels a bit convenient if you ask me. The fact that they've managed to juice those last few extra minutes out of the police, and in that time, OJ escapes. The only thing that was found in the bedroom was a note. A suicide note. The dream team of lawyers held a press conference later on that day where Rob Kardashian read out this suicide note. It started with, "First, everyone understand, I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her, always have and always will. If we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. Recently, we came to the understanding that for now, we weren't right for each other. At least for now. Despite our love, we were different, and that's why we mutually agreed to go our separate ways." It was quite a long note, so I am going to skip over some bits, but it ended with, "I've had a good life. I'm proud of how I lived. My mama taught me to do unto others. I treated people the way I wanted to be treated. I've always tried to be up and helpful, so why is this happening? I'm sorry for the Goldman family. I know how much it hurts. Nicole and I had a good life together. All this press talk about a rocky relationship was no more than what every long-term relationship experiences. All her friends will confirm that I've been totally loving and understanding of what she's been going through. At times, I've felt like a battered husband or boyfriend, but I loved her, made that clear to everyone, and would take whatever to make us work. Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, made great friends. Please think of the real OJ and not this lost person. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I helped yours. Peace and love, OJ." And actually, in the O of OJ, he'd drawn a little smiley face to round off his suicide note. After the press conference, Bob Shapiro goes home to his wife at the end of the workday, and she's asking him, "Oh, how was it? How was your day?" And he said, "Well, OJ disappeared and we found a suicide note in his bedroom." And she was like, "What do you mean he's disappeared? He's on TV right now." And she switches it on and there's a live car chase going on down the highway between O.J. Simpson and the police. He was being driven by his NFL player friend, Al Cowlings, or AC. They were speeding down the highway with O.J. like tucked away in the back seat. Eventually, traffic started to build up, which slowed down O.J.'s car, and so police were able to close in on them. Police hopped out of their vehicle and they started shouting to AC to cut the engine, to stop, but he just started screaming back at them and like banging on the window so hard that the car was starting to shake. He was screaming at them saying, "Put away your guns, he's in the back seat, he's got a gun to his head." So police stood still, they didn't go any further, they didn't know what to do, but then they just watched as the traffic started to dissipate and then AC just drove off. With OJ still in the car, they just watched as they got away. What the fuck? Like, time and time again, we hear of shitty police work in true crime cases. Nearly every single video was sat here bitching about the police. But how are these LAPD cops even real? How are they letting their suspect get away absolutely every single time they get close to him? So the police rush back to their car, they hop in, and they start the chase again. But at this point, AC had actually called 911 himself from their car. He told the operator, "This is AC. I have OJ in the car. I'm coming up the 5 freeway. Right now, we're okay, but you got to tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, he's got a gun to his head." So the dispatcher responded, "Is everything else okay?" And he said, "Everything right now is okay, officer. Everything is okay. He wants me to get him to his mum. He wants me to get him to his house." This whole car chase, pretty much, had been broadcasted live for 90 minutes. A 90-minute long car chase, and I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't very high speed. It was just normal highway speed. Not gonna lie, in my opinion, I don't think they were trying that hard. But for 90 minutes, this car chase was broadcasted onto live television and almost 100 million Americans tuned in to watch it. It's still infamous to this day. It's known as the white Bronco chase. Like, everyone that especially was alive at the time of the OJ case and watching it all happen live on the news, everyone remembers it. That was the first thing my mum brought up when I told her that I was covering this case. She was like, "You've got to get that car in there." Everyone was talking about it. This is what really catapulted this case from just, you know, like a high-profile celebrity murder investigation to the international sensation that it is now. And of course, because OJ had so many fans from like his sports career and his acting, there were actually so many people that were cheering him on and championing to save the juice. A lot of people like made signs and held them up at the TV cameras saying, "Save the juice." Oh, if you didn't know, OJ's nickname is the Juice. OJ, orange juice. the juice. So by now, police know where they're heading in that white Bronco. They're going to OJ's house. So they send officers out there to get there first and to like evacuate the premises as well. They got everyone out of there apart from Rob Kardashian and OJ's son. Eventually, when that white Bronco pulled in, AC jumped out of the car and started shouting to all the officers to back off. He was saying, he's got a gun, don't do anything stupid. Police went up to the car to speak to OJ and he was just pleading with them to be able to speak to his mother. He said that that's all he wanted. And so police said, okay, we'll let you do that as long as you step inside the house and do it here with us. So he did. He got out of the car and he started heading into the house. By now, it was about 9 p.m. Remember, his self-surrender deadline was 11 a.m., 10 hours ago. As he hobbled up the drive and into the house, he was sobbing, and police noticed that he was holding a bunch of like family photographs. And when he got inside, he just collapsed into one of the officer's arms, just saying, I'm sorry guys, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry I put you through this. While he was under police supervision, OJ was allowed to use the bathroom, call his mother. He had a glass of orange juice, ironically enough. And finally then, after all of this, he was arrested and taken into police custody. So now they could start seizing things for evidence, including the travel bag that he'd actually taken with him, that he'd had on him during that car chase, and you're never gonna believe what was in it. Inside was his passport and a very comical bag of disguises, right? There was a fake mustache, a fake goatee beard, some like makeup adhesive glue, and then adhesive remover, so he would be able to put them on and take them off whenever he needed. So he's got a disguise. He's literally packed his passport, a disguise, and a fully loaded handgun. I wonder what he was planning to do with all that. I wonder. But yes, finally, Orenthal James Simpson was in police custody. His first night in there was spent on suicide watch. I mean, of course, after all the threats that had been going on all throughout the day, AC saying that he had the gun to his head, and of course that giant suicide note. But finally, he's in custody and this investigation can properly get underway. But despite how tricky his arrest had already been, that was only the first hurdle in what would be the most complicated murder trial in history. So, this feels like a good place to finish part 1. You have all the details of the murder, the crime scene, how OJ was captured. So buckle in for part 2, get ready for that, where we'll be discussing in detail the trial of the century and that ever-perplexing final verdict. Thanks again to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. Remember, you can click the link down below in the description to download the game, or you can scan the QR code on screen right now. It is completely free to download, and it's so much fun. Make sure you're watching the web series on their YouTube channel as well. I'm so excited. But yeah, thank you so much for watching part 1 of the OJ Simpson series. My next video will be part 2. I'm super excited to read the comments, especially on that one, but even on this one, let me know what you're thinking so far. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure you've clicked the little bell so that you get notifications when I upload. That way you'll know when part 2 is up. If you want to watch another video of mine in the meantime, there'll be one on screen right now, and like I said, subscribe to my channel. You can click on that little circle with my face in. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in part 2. Bye!